Welcome to another episode of Prescription for Life. My name is Linda Golik. I'm the Health and Wellbeing Consultant at Emplify Health by Bellin. And I am so pleased to be joined today by Jenna Schroeder. Hi, Jenna. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So Jenna is the Executive Director of NAMI Brown County, and we're going to learn more about what that is and what kind of great resource that actually is in our community and really in the state and in the nation. So Jenna, start off by telling us, what is NAMI? What does that stand for?
Yeah, that's a great question. NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and it actually started here in the state of Wisconsin in Madison. A group of moms have gotten together. They were talking about their sons who were living with mental illnesses, and they just weren't really finding the support that they wanted. So they got together, and now it is in all 50 states, and there are over 650 local affiliates. So,
wow.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
That is so cool. So cool that started right here in our
Yeah.
state. So tell us about, what does NAMI do? And I know it's a really big list, but what are some of the things that NAMI does here in the community and throughout the state?
Right. So NAMI, we want to offer support, education, and advocacy for the people that are living with mental illness, but also their friends and family, because they're also going through it with them. So here at NAMI Brown County, we have lots of great things. We have support groups, and we really concentrate on the family support groups. You know, there's a saying that you put on your own oxygen mask and save yourself before you can save anybody else, and we definitely find that that's true with mental illness. So we have support groups twice a month for family members. Another thing we do is we have classes. We have 8-week classes that are for family to family members, but then also peer-to-peer. They meet once a week for 8 weeks, so that you can learn a little bit more about your mental illness, how to speak, maybe with your loved ones who maybe are in a crisis, so that, you can go through those things together. So we offer that education piece. Another important thing we do is presentations. We have presentations for elementary school all the way through college. We also have presentations for workplaces if they're looking for like workplace wellness and how to support the people in their businesses or their locations, and maybe how they're feeling like for burnout and things like that. And then we offer presentations to the community. So that's an important part. Then we also do what we call CIT and CIP. We partner with law enforcement for crisis training. So when people are responding to a mental health crisis, different ways that they can interact so that we have a good outcome. And crisis and partners training, where we can train anybody that really comes in contact with the public. And then the last thing I want to mention is definitely our community engagement. We have like a picnic and a walk, a holiday party, because we really want to show that people are not alone. We want that community connection where people can get together and just, do daily life instead of always talking about their mental illness.
Let's talk a little bit more about some of the education and the presentations and what people are learning about and getting out of these presentations and the content you provide. So let's talk about schools. What types of messages, what types of things are you doing in the schools?
Yeah, the schools are so important. I was actually a teacher, first grade, for 23 years. So I definitely saw the different changes, not only in the students, but their family members and my coworkers. So it's so important that we're getting into the schools. We have a presentation that we do at the elementary stage called Mental Health Chat, where we read a book and we just talk really about all the different feelings that you can have, and that it doesn't matter what feeling you're having, they're all okay, but how can we respond to some of those, instead of acting out or, running away from the situation, what else could we do? So we give them different helpful tips on things that they could do. In middle school, we usually do stress and anxiety, because those are some of the highest things we're finding with middle school students. So again, talking about tips and tricks that they can use if they're feeling very anxious about something. How can they ground themselves? What type of breathing activities can they do? How important it is to put down their phones so that they can just have a little bit of interaction time with other people, maybe getting outside, so important. In high school, we usually do one called Ending the Silence, where we really talk about suicide prevention and, different things that you might notice in your friends, that you might be the person that you just need to check in on them and say, are you okay? is there anything I can do to help you? Are you thinking about suicide? A lot of times people think that they can't ask that question, and we really promote, asking the question. It's not going to make them think about suicide. If the thought is in their head, it's already there. Yeah. So those are the different presentations we do in the schools.
So impactful. So cool. And from your perspective, I mean, you said you were a teacher for 20 some years. How have you witnessed the evolution of mental health concerns in our school? I mean, did you see more of that as years were going on? Was that part of the reason that you wanted to step into this kind of a role?
Right, definitely. And the great thing about it is from the time that I started teaching until I left the classroom, not only have the students changed and the way that they respond to things, but the educational system has changed. By the time I was leaving, I had students that would go into a classroom and do yoga and meditate every day before they started their day, just because maybe they didn't come in on the best foot, and so they just needed that moment before they even went into the classroom to kind of get themselves together and ready for their day. I just think that the kids are so much more open, even when I go into presentations and things, if I do presentations in the community or with adults, a lot of people are kind of standoffish until the end, and then they'll come up and maybe talk one-on-one or in person or say, I have a family member who, or a child who, or I'm struggling with this myself, and they'll open up a little more one-on-one, where with students, thankfully, they're so open about their mental health. When I go into presentations at schools, it's totally the opposite. They'll be like, I have that, or my mom did this, and they're so open, and they have techniques, which is great. Yeah. They'll say, like, when I'm having a hard moment, I use this grounding technique, or I've used box breathing before, where a lot of adults, you ask them what box breathing is, and they kind of give you a look, right? Where our students actually know those techniques. So it's just about getting them to use those.
Yeah. That's so cool.
It is.
So cool. So tell me more about the worksite wellness piece. What types of things are you out there doing in terms of, for that worker, for that adult person, in the throes of all the demands of life and family and all of those things? What types of things you have going on?
Right, kind of in the same realm, right, along with the students. With workplace wellness, we really talk about taking care of yourself. What are some things that you can do on a daily basis just to take care of you? We know we have all these responsibilities. A lot of times, people have a hard time, like, where do I start? So we just discuss simple things like, can you make a list of what I need to do today, and have like some high priorities, some maybe I can get to these priorities, and it's okay if these don't end up happening today, because having a list kind of, sometimes you're in a moment and you're like, I don't even know where to begin. I have so much to do today. So we kind of talk about those tips or different things that you can do for yourself, if it's even taking a walk or taking breaths during the day before a meeting. Can I go ahead and do some type of breathing or grounding exercise before I go into that meeting? We talk a lot about, burnout and how to kind of avoid that, but then also how to have conversations, how to do active listening with people if they do come to you with a concern, especially if you're in something like HR or things like that, how to respond if they come in and say, I'm really having a mental health crisis. Yeah. What can I do?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's fantastic. So specifically then in Brown County, that is where you are located, and you have a beautiful location as well that people can visit, and that's where some of your support groups happen and those types of things. We also have, for those people that are listening, from outside of our region, NAMI Wisconsin, and I just have this handout where there's just all sorts of amazing things that you're connected to. You're connected to housing assistance and food security and veteran help. I mean, it sounds like your location is also kind of that starting point if people may need assistance in other areas. Is that correct?
What's so great about NAMI is that there are different levels, so there are there are lots of different affiliates that are in the state. So depending on your region, you probably have your own NAMI for your county, but if you don't, you probably have one that's close by. So it's always good to kind of start out in your area because those resources are going to be closer for you. So if you go to the NAMI Brown County website, that's where I usually start, namibrowncounty.org. And if I can't find what I'm looking for, then I kind of move on to NAMI Wisconsin because those are the resources for the entire state. But then I also like to go to NAMI National, which is just nami.org. They have great, videos and things of different doctors. They definitely have a lot more resources than maybe we just have right here in NAMI, Wisconsin. So if you're looking for something in particular, you have a child who, has schizophrenia, and you're not finding the resources you need maybe here in NAMI Brown County, or you're not really knowing what's going on, you can always listen to some of those things or reach out, to NAMI as a national organization because they have a few more resources. One of the great things that I always give the NAMI Wisconsin card, of course, but we also have a NAMI Wisconsin resource guide, and it is also online or it's in person, and it's a book, and it has everything. Like if you're struggling with legal resources, if you're struggling with housing, or if you want to know more about what to do in a crisis, whatever it is, you can look at it not only online, but there's also a paper version that NAMI Wisconsin puts out. It is a wonderful resource of everything in our state.
That's awesome. So much great, just amazing resources, so much information out there. So if somebody's listening, watching today, where can they go for more information? How do they connect with you?
Right.
All of those types of things.
The best way is probably to go to the website, namibrowncounty.org, but they can also, make an appointment, come into the office. I'm not there every day, obviously, because I'm out in the community doing things, but our office is open. We have tons of resources and books that people can check out, things like that, all free of charge. So they're more than welcome to do that. But I would start at the website, probably the best place.
See what's available, see what fits.
Right. You can kind of send us a message, find my email in there, send us a message for what you're looking for, and we can definitely connect and make sure that everyone is getting the help that they need.
So with May being Mental Health Awareness Month, that's why we're recording this right now, and hopefully you all are seeing it around that time. What do you want people to know? What do you want people to know about mental health and about any concerns that they may have?
Well, I think so many things, but I think that one of the main things is that your mental health is just as important as your physical health. 1 in 5 people has a mental illness. So it's so, I don't want to say easy, but so many people are worried about taking care of their physical health. And, if you're diagnosed with like diabetes, for example, you would probably ask your family members, like, does anybody else have diabetes? Like, what have you done for it? What's worked? You would go to your doctor, and say, can I exercise more? Is there a diet plan I can do? Is there a medication? You would go home and Google it and research it. We just want people to do the same thing for their mental health. If you're diagnosed or if you think something's going on, ask your family members, because more than likely someone in your family is going through the same thing, and say, what have you done? What's worked for you? Go to your doctor and just discuss it and talk about, is there a treatment plan? Can I use more exercise, meditation, yoga? Do I need a type of medication? Should I see a counselor? What can I do? So we just want people to really realize you're not alone. 1 in 5 people, just put that in the back of your head. You're not alone. So there's so much support out there, and we just want you to know that you can find it.
Absolutely. And I think, that's part of why we do the podcast that we do. We just want people to know, like, it's okay to reach out. It's okay to ask for help. Like, nobody expects you to be perfect in all areas. And sometimes, too, reaching out proactively so that you have the tools in your toolbox when life does throw you something as a curveball.
Right.
So, I mean, it can be really important that way, too.
Exactly. We see a lot of people at NAMI Brown County that are in crisis, which, of course, you can come to us when you are in a crisis. But we also want to promote that it's okay to get help before that point. Everyone's mental health is important. it could be a little thing like, you know what, for my mental health today, I'm going to walk for 5 minutes. It might seem so small, but that's something that you're doing for your mental health. For my mental health, I'm going to start meditating or, doing some breathing exercises so that you're able to do those when hard things do come up, So when you're having a presentation and you're nervous about it, you don't have to think, okay, now what do I do if I'm feeling nervous? You can really, you already have those toolboxes. Oh, that's right. I can do my box breathing. I can use a grounding technique. I can take 5 minutes. One of the things that I really love, because I have a hard time like thinking, okay, what should I do in this moment? I use something called Insight Timer. It is,
Sure.
Have you heard of that before?
Yeah,
It's so great. It's one of my favorite. I've done other ones before too, but it's my favorite. I've never paid for anything on it, but it has everything. If you're having trouble falling asleep at night, if you need a little breathing exercise, and sometimes it's just good to have somebody kind of walk you through that, especially if you're in a panic. But definitely seeking out those resources and things that help you, because it's different for everybody. So finding out what works for me so that when I am in a crisis, I know how to respond.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, so much great information, Jenna. Just so many things available through NAMI. So really happy that you could come in today and take some time and just help us learn and understand what's available, and that's a free resource.
Correct.
That is a free resources. So no worry on that end, and free for everyone. So make sure that you check that out. So thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks to our audience for listening in today. Please like, subscribe, share this podcast. Thanks to our Bellin Foundation for sponsoring this podcast. If you want to know more about the Bellin Foundation, you can look that up, bellinfoundation.org. Otherwise, have a great day, and we'll see you next time.